Why isn't it? Oh, okay. It looks like it is going. Okay.
Yeah, mine says that it is. So.
Yay. Okay. Okay. Hopefully we should be live. I'm going to try to keep my phone here so in case Christina tells me anything,
Okay.
I can see it. So give it like 30 seconds and then get started. So you can see how it's going. On a side note, I'm very excited that Chesapeake Harbor is going to paint the cabinets and put in stainless steel appliances. So.
Yay. That's going to be
Exciting
so good.
staging, side note, exciting staging news today.
Yes, that's super exciting because it's going to be such a big return on investment for them.
And the guy painting the cabinets is doing it for a ridiculous price. So super excited.
Yay.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with our live broadcast today. I'm Jen Holden of the Jen Holden Group of Coldwell Banker Residential Brokerage of Annapolis Plaza, where we have a newly reopened office. And we have been talking for last week and for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be talking about getting your house ready to sell, despite the fact that this year is a roller coaster, a dumpster fire, whatever you want to call it. Life does go on, and we still are trying to get ready to sell houses all over the place. So one person who's been invaluable to us this spring, as our stagers always are invaluable to us, is Joni Laycook. And she stepped in right at the beginning of quarantine with a very innovative and helpful plan to work around some quarantine things that could only happen during quarantine, with families needing to stay in a house instead of move out of it, and making a map for me of where to place things and really working with some kind of crazy schedule. So I thought, who better to come and talk with us about getting your house photo perfect ready. Her company is called, as you can see on her shirt, it's called Shore Studio Property Styling. And she has got 10 plus years of experience as a designer and in the industry. And she understands the importance of staging in the sale of residential real estate, which we just sold one of her stage properties today, and we're about to close another one next week. So we can attest to that. And you can tell that she truly enjoys the process of helping people transform their spaces. That smile that you see is how she always is. And she's a positive force in the process of getting your house ready to sell. So I'm very excited to have you here. And basically what we're going to do is go through kind of the steps of getting your house market ready. So last week we gave everybody kind of a, just so you know, we gave everybody kind of a general overview of, okay, how does this process go if you have never sold a house before? The same as being a first-time buyer, being a first-time seller can be a little overwhelming if you don't know what you're getting into. And so this week we really wanted to focus on one specific thing, which is making your house look fabulous online and to buyers when they come through the house. So basically, our steps are kind of like this in a quick nutshell. You have to kind of get everything planned out and think about your timing. You have to start with repairs. Do you have things that are broken around the house you need to fix? You have to sort of pre-pack, or everybody's favorite word is declutter. Take on plan out any remodeling projects that you want to do. Like before we started the broadcast, we were talking about a family who's going to put in new appliances and paint their kitchen cabinets. So kind of get all that organized. Go step outside, look at curb appeal for your house, do fabulous deep clean. And then at that point, in comes the staging And then we're ready for photos, videos, 3D models, and all the things we need to do to entice buyers to come and take a look at your house. So our first question for you is, we normally find, there are going to be situations where someone has to put their house on the market 3 days from now. They found their dream house and they don't have a lot of time, to get on the market, but usually they like to have a few weeks up to a month. When is the best time for people to get you involved?
So I like to come as early as I can. So ideally, it's nice to have a couple weeks. We do run into situations where people kind of call me later and they've already made some decisions that, for instance, oh, well, we decided to paint this or do that. And it's kind of like, well, you didn't really have to do that. So I would have liked to have been there, earlier on in order to set up a plan. So the sooner the better. But sometimes, like you said, it's not always like that. Maybe they just found their dream home and they're trying to get ready in a week. I've done that too. Mm-hmm. It just depends on the situation, but ideally as soon as possible so that I can help them lay out a plan, because it's an overwhelming process. And a lot of times people put extra steps in there that they don't have to, or they become very fixated or focused on something that's really not going to matter immediately. So it's important to just focus on being camera ready, but also to set up a plan so that after the photo shoot, when it comes to like showings and things like that, they have a checklist and a plan in place so that they know what to do if they're living in the home while it's on the market. If it's vacant, I still like to get in there early just so I can set up a plan to know what to bring in and set up a furniture plan, make sure we have the inventory we need. So at minimum a week, but ideally, a month or two.
Okay. And, some of the things that you're bringing up are things that we've kind of run into. And so it's also important to remember, if you're thinking, hey, I know I need to paint, but I don't know what colors. I know I need to replace this broken light fixture, but I don't know what's a good, cost-effective, but still, pretty choice. Those are also things that as a stager, you've got the design experience to kind of chime in on.
Absolutely. I mean, and people are always surprised because I'll come and be like, okay, let's paint this, because I just know, because, I've been doing it 6 years. So I have my proven winter paint colors. I have a whole catalog set up of light fixtures for certain styles of homes that are cost effective and look fantastic. So I have all that information at hand to share with them so that they can immediately start that process of preparing the home.
Yeah. And
without having to make all the choices. It's like,
right. You can focus on, as a homeowner, you can focus on the things that you need to do, and you can take advantage of professional expertise rather than spinning your wheels. Don't spend a half a day trying to find the perfect light fixture when, Joni may know right off the bat, what are some good things. And you bring up another point, which is, knowing that and having those places to go look can also save people a lot of money, rather than feeling like at the last minute they have to run out and get whatever's available.
Right.
If you plan it out and you can order the more cost-effective choices, you can really end up saving in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, obviously, what I always tell people when they're nervous is the most important steps you can take are going to be to have your house be scrupulously clean and be clutter-free. Can you talk a little bit about how you help people with getting that pre-packing decluttering step done, or what advice you give?
Yes. So that is what people get super anxious about. Once they've made the decision to move, they start looking around and they're like, oh my gosh, like we have so much stuff. And pretty much everyone feels that way, no matter what the situation. It can be incredibly overwhelming. So the process that I suggest is to use either the super sticky Post-it notes in different colors or painter's tape in couple different colors, and just walk around and stick what you need to, like, selling is blue, donating is, green, and then everything else, that you need to, that will stay. Okay. So rather than going room by room or starting to like unpack a whole closet, that's a lot of work. What we have to focus on is what buyers are going to see when they walk in. And we need to start with things that are going. So it could be like, okay, everything that's got a green Post-it note is donations.
You know.
I'm going to call Purple Heart or Second Chance or whoever tomorrow to come pick it up. Everything with a green sticker. Because if you just walk through and kind of glaze over and do it, it's less intimidating than being like, okay, I'm going to clean out this whole room today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. And then stuff starts getting moved from room to room. Now you've got a pile in the garage. It's visually easier to just walk in and, okay, blue is going to my sister's house. Green is going to donations, and pink is, storage, or goes to the garage because we're keeping it. So it's an easy way to just walk through and not be overwhelmed and just stick. Then you go back through and pack. Then you go back through with the trash bag and the, bins. It makes it a lot easier, and you already know what to do when you walk in the room.
Right.
So it helps people to do that first. It's almost like you're making a plan, but it's a very informal, easy way of just walking through together. Okay. And you can even involve your kids or family members. Hey,
it's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Just go through and mark it up. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and I think for a lot of people, the deciding can sometimes take a lot of that time.
Right. Yeah.
We feel like we have to evaluate each of our possessions and.
Yes. And that can be a long, drawn out process, which is why it's easier to just, when you're in that zone, to walk through and get your stickies and just go room by room. You don't have to pack. You don't have to lift. You don't have to worry about where it's going. Just label what goes where. Then you start the process of packing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one thing that, almost universally is going to make a huge difference, especially if you've lived in your home, I'll call it more than 5 years, is paint. Can you talk a little bit about what you advise with paint? How do I choose a paint color? Do I paint everything the same color? What do you?
Right. So if your home is already a neutral color, I always recommend to just touch it up. And that, when I say neutral, I mean, right now it's still grays are in style, and like beige, tan, white, cream, ivory. If you have, more gold tones, we need to talk about changing that, because that's, it looks very 2005, which is not that there's anything wrong with that. My house is that color too, but we want to appeal to buyers, especially online right now. We want them to click on that picture. And if it's already very neutral, then that's a win. So just touching up if need be, if you still have the paint color. Otherwise, I'm a big fan of not going, I like the grayish tones. So not too cool of a gray, not a blue gray, and not necessarily a warm, somewhere in the middle, beiges and tans. And then that way, it's neutral no matter what kind of decor people have. They'll, see how their things can fit in the space visually. Because just, it's always better to have it neutral. Even white is fine. A lot of people are like, it's so boring, it's white. Well, with staging, you can bring in a little color here and there to jazz that up. So the more neutral, the better.
Okay. And then if I need ideas for other things, like let's say I need to do, replace carpet. And so I need flooring ideas, or, I still have my big old fluorescent light in my kitchen. I need, which I do, and I need some lighting ideas. How do I strike that balance between, the neutral equivalent of other fit and finish items and something that's going to be, on trend enough to appeal to people online?
Right. So that's definitely where we can step in and help out, because, we're very familiar with all that. I never suggest for people to go and spend a lot of money. I mean, Pottery Barn's great, but you don't need to go there and buy a brand new light fixture from there. There's lots of great things that you can find at Wayfair, Amazon, even Lowe's and Home Depot, that are going to add that like pop and wow factor that's going to make your home stand out. When you have things like the glass and brass chandelier, that has been the builder basic, for 30 years, it was the builder basic. So we always want to try to update all of that lighting, and find something that also works for our area. This area, a lot of people like that coastal feeling. So sometimes we'll try to bring in some of those elements as well when we add those things, so that it, really speaks to the buyer and feels correct for the area. If we were in Los Angeles, we'd be going for a different look than we do here in Annapolis.
Right.
So we always wanted to fit that style as well. Going online is always great. I love to look at the current catalogs as well, from places like Pottery Barn, Restoration Hardware, but then look and see if you can find something similar that's less expensive.
And, on that same note, what I heard a long time ago, and I try to kind of encourage people to go with this, is don't necessarily buy something just for resale unless you think you want to use it in your new home that's, even remotely expensive.
Right.
Try to really focus on the basics of having your repairs done and, turning over a house that's in great condition, but
Right.
not necessarily, feeling like you have to buy a lot of stuff right off.
Right. And it's not a design project. Staging is not design. And, focus on designing the new house. Staging is appealing to hundreds of people, whereas design is about appealing to you. So when people can separate those two things, it really helps, because they do start getting fixated on the decorative elements because it's fun,
Right.
As opposed to like, oh, we got to fix the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Clean the gutters. That's not nearly as fun as like, oh, let's replace the chandelier. And then you're shopping for 3 hours online for a new chandelier that,
Right.
There's a lot of great options out there that will appeal to the masses. And that's the goal.
Cool. You had made a note about a paint pendulum.
Oh, yes. So, and I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. And I actually posted a video on my Facebook and Instagram pages recently of me talking about this. And that goes back to, and we see this in everything, fashion, interior design, and it's color trends. So the pendulum shifts, back and forth. And, in 2005, it was all about restrained gold from Sherwin-Williams was one of the top colors, mannered gold, svelte sage, and then the pendulum shifted. And now we're in like navel and cool tones, whereas that was warm. And now the pendulum, I think, is shifting again and is somewhere in the middle, which is why I'm liking things like accessible beige and snowbound, which is just a white that's got a nice undertone. So we're seeing it will shift back and forth. So in 10 years, we're all going to have, warmer tones again. It's just a matter of that paint pendulum shifting. So, going from the very cool tones, like a Dorian gray, which is a real deep, darker blue gray, into a, more of a neutral tan tone, but we're not quite back to like the yellow neutrals yet.
Got it. Okay. This is a sidebar, but you're talking about gold made me think about it. We have a lot of homes here in our area that, if they're not even older, but that would date from, let's say, 70s, 80s, 90s, where we might have a bit of a bit more brass than you would find in a new home today, as far as fixtures. How comprehensive does somebody have to be? Do I have to go around my 1987 house and take out every bit of brass, or can we mix our metals now? Or
that's such a good question. So yes, we can mix our metals now. And what I've actually done this recently, because the brass and golds are in style right now, it's just a more modern look. So in certain homes where they do have some of the older brass fixtures, we've mixed in some more of the modern brass fixtures. So for instance, I did a home, this is a good example, a couple months ago, where I think it had been built in the early 2000s, but they had the brass shower frame and the brass faucets, but they were really nice. It was just older. So we ended up doing a frameless glass shower enclosure. We left the brass, the gold faucets, because they were actually really nice. But then we changed out, they had the Broadway lights that had the brass backplate with the Broadway light bulbs. We changed those to a really cool, new, more modern gold light fixture that we found on Wayfair. And it changed the entire look. And then we changed the knobs to a really modern gold pull, like a brushed brass pull. And it tied it all in. So they didn't have to spend the money to update those gold faucets that they had bought in the 2000s and upgraded to, because they were expensive and nice. And instead we made them work and meshed them with new light fixtures and knobs. So there's ways to make it all flow. A lot of it too has to do with price point. You know, this was a higher price point home. And so they had some higher end gold things, whereas sometimes when it's like that builder basic, you know, little glass and brass prismatic flush mount light, it's obvious that that's like a $20 light fixture. So sometimes it's nice to just switch that out to something that looks a little better depending on your price point.
Yep. And just update it. Okay, so what are, in your opinion, so let's say that I'm getting ready to sell and I've neutralized my paint colors and I've used the system and I've eliminated all the furniture and decor that I don't need. Are there a couple of things that you find to be really key as far as visual impact for what I need to do in my space?
Yes. So the first thing that I think is really important is curb appeal. So I think it's really important. I know people are like, oh, that's not really part of staging, is it? It's outside. Well, staging is for the whole property. So we want it to look good. When I do a consultation, I walk all around the outside, the perimeter of the property as well, to make sure that it looks good, because buyers are going to walk around outside and we want to appeal to them. So things like just adding hanging baskets on a front porch, or correcting, perhaps you have some broken brick. Just correcting those things makes a huge difference. Updating your outdoor lights makes a huge difference. So doing some of those curb appeal things is super important. Secondly, making sure that your furniture is highlighting the room. So sometimes we have furniture and it's too big for the room, or it's too small for the room, or sometimes there's too many small pieces. It just doesn't photograph well. So making sure that the scale and proportion of your furniture works for the room, because we're selling the house, not the furniture. So we want to make sure that the furniture flatters the room, just like we want to make sure that a jacket flatters your body type. It's the same type of thing. And then thirdly, I would say, and this is going to sound a little silly, but I so many times go into homes where they have replaced light bulbs and they're not the right light bulbs. They're not putting out enough light. They're not the same color. So a lot of times you'll see this in recessed lights. You'll see 6 recessed lights in the middle of the kitchen, and 3 of them look kind of yellow and 3 of them look kind of blue. It will make your paint look weird. It'll make your surfaces, like your countertops and cabinets, look strange. And people get a little confused. It looks so much better when you have one uniform light output and light color temperature to really, you know, make the space look at its best. And you always want the full wattage. Sometimes people, you know, they'll have like 25-watt light bulbs in a light fixture that takes 100 watts. And now with LED, you can switch that out easily. It can be energy efficient and it puts out way more light and makes the room look amazing. I go into a lot of homes too, where I'm like, what's going on with the paint in here? Is that wall a different color than that? And it's all the same color. It's that they have different color temperatures coming out of their lights. So I think just checking your light bulbs, making sure they're at full wattage, because light and bright sells.
Yep. And in fact, I know one of the first projects you and I worked on together, you looked at the pictures, and when you got there, you said, I thought these walls were yellow, and they weren't. They were kind of a light beige, because the color temperature of the light bulbs have been picked up by the editing software for the photos. And really made everything look different. And so one easy thing we were able to do, in addition to changing them in real life, was also make sure that the photos were retouched to pull the accurate color in the pictures too. So that's another reason to make sure everything matches, is you don't know what almost all of our real estate photos like that are edited now. And you know, that lab and that software are going to pick up different things depending on what light bulbs are in there. So that's a really, really good point. So you talked a little bit about curb appeal. do you, and for example, one really easy thing that we always look at, especially again, if I'm going around, a house, and I'll take my house as a perfect example, which when I bought it had exactly what you said. We had the sage green everywhere on the outside. And so a really easy fix was to do front door and shutters. Are there things like that 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 you can help people look at in terms of color and style?
Absolutely. I mean, we look at exterior colors too. And oftentimes, a lot of houses that we see, it's a lot of brown on brown on brown. And it's really nice to just make those simple changes with your shutters or front door to just add more impact, because it ends up being kind of like a sea of brown or a sea of beige. And it's nice to add, that curb appeal by using better exterior colors. Absolutely.
And a lot of times that can really, I always harp on it because I say, when your house is on the market, you've literally got one photo to capture someone's attention with, and you've got that attention for maybe 30 seconds if you're really lucky, probably way less than that. And if that first photo looks appealing, then people will click through to see all the fabulous work that you've done. But if it doesn't, and like you said, it just looks kind of like brown on brown on brown, or the look of it looks old and tired, it's not enticing people to go click through to that third picture and
Right.
see your beautiful kitchen and make an appointment to come see all your hard work in person. So
Right.
that front of the house picture is super duper key. So I'm glad you brought that up. So here's another situation that we get into, and COVID has changed this a bit. But can you talk about, most staging professionals will say, for you to bring your furniture and supplies into a home, it needs to be a vacant property. And we all understand there's 50 different reasons that's a good idea. But for someone who's still living in their home, what's the main difference in approach?
So we are now back to doing owner occupied staging work with precautions, masks. We ask that no one is in the property, even if it's owner occupied, while we are in there staging it. So we are doing owner occupied staging and adding in our accessory packages. So if someone is living in a home while they're on the market, and this is 99% of homes are going to have pictures with like big family pictures on the wall. And oftentimes, or gallery walls, you take all the art off, you've got all these nails. We can provide a large canvas, to put on that wall so it doesn't feel empty anymore, because we do want there to be focal point. It is important to have art on the walls. It makes a huge difference. So we can bring in artwork, we can bring in accessories right before a photo shoot to help highlight certain areas and to add that feeling, that staged feeling where, now you've removed all your personal things and it's kind of like, it feels so empty and kind of cold. Mm-hmm. We have things that we bring in because our main focus is to highlight the fixed assets. So beautiful kitchens with, nice countertops and upgrades and stainless appliances. So we like to add a few things in there, just maybe even a fresh vase of flowers, just to add that impact. Because oftentimes when people are looking at a picture of a home, you'll see out the window and you'll see green trees. And when we bring in just something, a plant or something, it'll add that impact to create what I call a dot to dot. So you're looking at two windows and maybe there's like a nightstand in between with a floral arrangement on it. It's now carrying your eye to all the green items in the room. So we do little tricks like that to help with the photos, because there are psychological staging techniques so that people can envision themselves there and they're seeing things. So we're bringing their eye to the big, beautiful windows rather than, there's a sofa and a chair in a corner. We're trying to help their eye travel around the room so that they can really see the space, even in photos. So we do provide items for owner occupied as well as vacant. Okay. And we take all the proper precautions as far as for COVID and as far as cleaning our items as well. We very fortunate and already had a nice supply of disinfectant before this. And we also have, found some different strategies as far as taking those extra precautions to make sure that items are safe and healthy. before we bring them into a home.
So are there other things that you would like people to know about working with this stager, services you offer that we didn't talk about, or advice that you have that you feel is important?
Well, wow, so broad, but yes, I think that it's important. Even the market is very hot right now. Things are selling very quickly, but I do think it's important because staging is a value-added service. It's a marketing tool. So when we come in and we're able to make a few adjustments that make a big impact, it definitely can help affect your price, especially if it's vacant. People, have a hard time envisioning themselves in a property that's empty. And oftentimes people want to come in and they want to sit down for a moment and take it in and talk about it. If there's no furniture, it's awkward. And we want to highlight the features, the fireplaces, the windows, the beautiful things that they are purchasing. It's probably the biggest investment people make. So it's in their lifetime. So whether you're selling or buying, it's just a huge tool that really helps with the process. And then oftentimes with staging, we're not just dealing with like a family that's moving or an investor that's flipped a house or whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's things like estate sales and other hardships that people have endured. And we're there to help people through the process and guide them through it so that it's not stressful. We lay out a whole plan as part of our consultation process. So whether you're living in the home or not, we're there to guide you through it and to create a plan so that you're not stressed and you're not overwhelmed, and so that you get top dollar and so that the home shows at its best potential, no matter what the price point. So that's really the end goal. And, we've have great results because of it.
Well, and I think these, you bring up two really good points. And one is, if you are in a hurry, that's all the more reason to take a deep breath and make a good plan, because the better your house looks online and the better your house shows, the quicker you're going to end up selling it in the long run, rather than rushing to get on and feeling like things didn't look exactly the way that you really hoped, or that you feel showed your house in its best light. And so sometimes it's by taking a little bit of extra time, we can really help generate that interest. The other thing you mentioned is, we hear a lot in the news right now that there are people who, for one reason or another, are having to sell, and it wouldn't necessarily have been this year that they would have chosen to do it. And I think that it's also very important to understand, even in that situation, don't panic. It's still important, it is still a seller's market. You still have the ability, to really, again, take a deep breath, let us help you focus, and then let us do everything we can to put you in the best position possible. Even if it's something where you feel that, you're going to be, relocating or, doing something else that this isn't necessarily what you would have thought this year was going to bring, that, by putting your best foot forward from the first day,
Right.
you'll end up in a better long-term spot.
Absolutely. I always, our thing as stagers, what we always say is that it's less expensive than a price reduction. So whether you bring us in for a consultation, just to get that plan in place, we provide a report, a checklist so that you're ready and you know what you need to do. Whether you're doing that, or if it's a vacant and you want to have the home staged professionally, we'll bring in all of our furniture. Either way, it's still less expensive than a $5,000 to $10,000 price reduction that you might have to do on the road and then have to backtrack and stage again when you've already made that price reduction. Like you said, it's already better to come out with your best foot forward and know that it's showing at its absolute best potential.
Yeah, and the only final thing that I'll say about that is, one thing we've started doing on all of our listings, because of COVID and because we want to give buyers as much information as possible before they go visit a house is to start doing 3D modeling for everything. And so it really does become important. If you're going to make a 3D model of your home, there are no secrets anymore, So you want to make sure that what people are seeing is what you want shown, and it's going to be accurate, and it's going to be reflective of what they see when they go through. But we really take some time to get show ready,
Yes.
before we do all this stuff. And that way, when you do get serious buyers, that they're really able to evaluate how this space will work for them.
Right. Absolutely.
And not worry about projects.
Yes, absolutely.
So, well, I really appreciate you making time for us. And we'll make sure we put all your contact information down in the comments so if people have specific needs or questions, they can reach out to you. We really appreciate your expertise.
Thank you so much for having me, Jen. It was a pleasure and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Awesome. Take care.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.